Hey, thank you for being here. Today we have a great video for you. If you don't know who we are Biocomparison. We are going to be talking about the ethics when it comes to biohacking. Now, the ethics are important. You always want to have a sense of ethics to help you navigate the waters about what you're doing. It's great to know what other people are doing in similar situations. It's great to even ask yourself, what are my ethics? What do I care about? What are the risks and regulations that I feel? And what does the law have to say? What have we learned from the past, and how are we applying that so we're making the right decisions, particularly when it comes to something as important or as big and broad as biohacking? We want to really do our due diligence to try to make a profound and exciting effort, but in a sense of ethics, that we're not doing anything immoral. And I think this is a very important topic to kind of keep an eye on and understand. So we're going to cover it for you. We're going to dive in and really try to give you a good view on some of these ethics. I think it's always cool to really dive into some of the ethics. So the ethics of biohacking, this is interesting. Oh yeah. Biohacking aims to extend lifespans in humans and animals, but what are the ethical implications of this technology? So this discussion will focus on the risk and regulations involved. We will look at the demand for long life and how biohacking can help meet the demand. So let's first look at some of the biohacking research. So we're going to get into genetic biohacking with this next slide that we have for you. All right, so here we are, genetic biohacking. Now, the ethics of genetic biohacking are not always clear. Some practitioners lack formal biology training that are motivated by normative beliefs in the right to do science. So this is something that we probably should keep an eye on quite a bit. While others are motivated by anonymity and pursuit of creative expression. Others have political motives, including anti-government sentiments. Let's go ahead and click on more. And this is going to be a really little way for us to see. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to jump back on screen at this point, and I'm just going to go ahead and talk about what some of these more features have in mind. So the FDA has jurisdiction over many products used in genetic biohacking, including raw biological materials and traditional drug products, right? This includes DIY CRISPR kits. Human gene therapy products also fall under FDA jurisdiction. Moreover, FDA has no need to exchange money with biohackers to exercise its jurisdiction. So hopefully you're following along. This is important because it will help prevent people from being harmed by these products. All right, a little further. However, the risks associated with genetic biohacking have been carefully considered. These risks may include environmental contamination or even foregoing traditional medical treatments. Moreover, the use of homemade gene therapies may lead to serious side effects. These risks depend on the context in which homemade genetic intervention is done, including whether it's a therapeutic procedure, an enhancement, or cosmetic use. So all this can be weighed into what makes biohacking a part of the risk-reward sector and what makes it something that we should really keep an eye on, the ethics portion. So biohackers can do a great deal of help with people with diseases. One group of biohackers, the Open Discovery Institute, offers genetic tools to genetically modify a patient's body. The name of the group is a reference to Walton, a Germanic paternal god. Walton is the god of death and war. Biohackers have also hacked insulin pumps to fine-tune the insulin delivery. These individuals are part of a consortium known as the Open Insulin Project, which bypasses regulatory blockages and performs research. Okay, a lot of information there. The biohacking movement has created important discussions among scientists. While this group is mostly driven by frustrations with mainstream progress, the traditional scientist community has acknowledged this. For example, biohackers have criticized mainstream progress, and traditional scientific community has responded with a great report that acknowledges the frustration of biohackers. So you see, we have this little bit of a back and forth between the scientists and the biohackers over what is proper. Although there's no definite definition of genetic biohacking, it is commonly understood as a practice of genetic experiments outside of the traditional scientific lab. So I can see where that can run into some problems. These experiments involve genetic altering bacteria, yeast, plants, and non-human animals. In addition to experiments in animals, individuals have also begun self-injecting homemade genetic materials into their own bodies. This practice has an ancient history in traditional medical research. All right, so a lot of stuff going on there, and a lot of stuff that we should keep in mind. All right, so we are going to move on, and with the next tab, we're going to talk about the ethical issues that are in play. All right, so a little further in the ethical implications, and I'm going to see if we can make it a little bigger. While biohackers may create, and we're going to continue on, new technologies and methods to improve life, these projects should not be conducted without ethical framework. Using biotechnology to create a new device that improves human health is highly risky and must be done with an understanding of potential social and safety concerns and consequences. In addition, biohackers should not conduct research projects that are beyond their professional expertise. The ethical issues involved in biotechnology research often includes safety issues and weighing the risk. There needs to be more conservations between biohackers and scientists. These conservations will foster open dialogue, allowing both groups to learn from each other. Biohackers often use engineering tools and scientific research to reach their goals, which can be beneficial for both groups to integrate their objections and more into the conversation. And this is where we get that information. Again, it's a little small, so I'm gonna jump back on screen myself so that I could continue to relay some of this information. Now, there is no consensus regarding biohackers' ethical conduct. However, it's important to remember that these individuals are not often scientists, but should still be subject to research ethics boards and ethics police. Biohackers are also important to the scientific community since they are a powerful tool for pushing science forward. They should be allowed to engage with the scientific community and represent their viewpoints. Biohackers have not completed formal biology training. Their motivations range from normative views about the right to do science to bodily autonomy and artistic expression. Many biohackers seek alternative cures and treatments to traditional drugs and regulated therapies. Some biohackers are motivated by anti-government sentiments. The relationship between do-it-yourself, bio and big bio is complicated. In many cases, biohackers have perceived as rebels who oppose the monopoly of scientific knowledge, and they often resist external interference to develop new technologies. However, they are often motivated by frustrations with a slow pace and translation of discoveries to human use. For example, a group of diabetics has started hacking insulin pumps to fine-tune their insulin delivery. In the Open Insulin Project, biohackers are bypassing regulatory barriers to perform their research. All right, so a lot going on there. Looks like there's a bit of a divide between the biohackers and the scientists. We keep in mind that biohackers have the freedom, usually with a little bit less hand over their shoulder, to push the boundaries and kind of cut across the middleman. But as we're seeing, there is controversy. Should biohackers be held to similar standards of scientists? Should they be considered scientists, even though they don't have the formal biology training? So these are all important parts of the conversation that we need to continue to have. There really isn't a right or wrong answer with this.
Oh, yeah.
It's just kind of an open conversation that we need to continue to press forward. So a lot of great information here. I want to go ahead and jump into our next slide, which is going to talk a lot about the risk. And I want to make the slide a little bit bigger. There we go. Let's go ahead and read a little bit about the risk. And while some methods of biohacking are completely safe, many others pose risk. Some methods, such as body mods, are only safe if they are performed under supervision of a medical professional. In addition, some biohacks have risks that border on illegal. These involve do-it-yourself bio and grinder that are based on experimental methodologies that are dangerous to human health. So that's where it starts to get a little bit more alarming. Let's go ahead and head into the more section. And again, the more section, and that's a little better. I should have probably clicked on it a little earlier. I'm going to stay off screen as I read the more section this time. We kind of have our little conversation. The Brookings Institute recently published a report on biohacking and its risk. This new method of science opens up access to science to a broad audience, but there are many risks and questions about the safety of genetic alterations. For example, it can be difficult to understand long-term consequences of changing certain genes. In order to avoid these risks, blood tests are crucial to effective biohacking. This allows you to determine what components of your body are causing your symptoms. Biohacking and biotechnology share a lot of similarities. They involve altering DNA of living organisms to create new products and services. Although biotechnology is more complicated than biohacking, both practices are related to pushing the boundaries of human body. Biohacking and biohackers often seek to improve their health, increase their lifespan, enhance cognitive function, and treat various issues. One type of biohacking involves putting sensors in the body. Some people install wearable devices that alert them to stretch, drink water, and take naps. I'm thinking for a situation like that, that seems to me kind of like maybe like a Fitbit or something along that line. That would be what I would consider. One type of biohacking involves implanted technologies such as microchips, bionic eyes, mind control drones, and gene editing. Now we're getting into more of what we would have looked at sci-fi just probably 10, 15, 20 years ago. Biohacking is a do-it-yourself citizen science that fuses science with technology. Many people use biohacking to improve their overall health and well-being. For example, Dave Aspen, the founder of Bulletproof Coffee, uses dozens of supplements daily. Dave Aspen also gets stem cells implanted in his joints regularly and undergoes far infrared treatments. And I've talked about far infrared treatments, how they have been very helpful for a lot of people. All right, we're going to talk about our last big gun, and I want to see if this covers me. Let's see, yeah, it covers me a little bit. We're going to jump on the slide. It's regulation. So biohacking is a new and growing community that uses biotechnology to manipulate human genomes for medical purposes. With conventional wisdom, biohacking research is beyond the scope of traditional forms of regulation. Public and private regulations are actually more in position to regulate these activities. Those who hold patents on gene editing methods can also restrict biohacking activities. There should be a more. Yes, we do have a more. I'm going to go ahead and click on it. And again, our more isn't as large as I would like it to be, but we're going to go ahead and push through. Regulators must recognize the risk involved in biohacking and ensure that they do not load health and safety risk. This is very important. We want to make sure that we are trying to do the best of our ability. Let's go ahead and jump to the next paragraph. Biohacking opens definition and decentralized structure can create a risky environment. So without regulatory oversight, biohackers can create untested products and may cause health risks or even environmental contamination. Furthermore, some biohackers are prone to infections and adverse reactions. The FDA has issued warnings about potential dangers such as untested products. Continuing on about some of these regulations, biohackers are growing as a science movement that work outside of traditional science institutions. Many biohackers create community lab spaces and conduct experiments. Their aim is to make science more accessible and encourage access to the scientific education, community, and research. In this way, biohacking can help solve a lot of social problems. Let's continue on. We're going to jump to the next paragraph, and this talks a little bit about the FDA, which has an important role in biohacking in the community. By engaging in these communities, the FDA can assess the risk and the biohacking and provide warning. Last paragraph, biohackers face legal risk. They are at risk of using tools of gene editing without proper licensing. That can be an issue. The FDA recently issued a warning about self-administration of gene-altering products. However, biohackers contend that the biomolecular components used in the DIY gene therapy are not inherently dangerous and can be legally acquired. So it looks like this is going to be quite the back and forth between biohackers and scientists and FDA. This is going to go on for some time, but there is a push for communication, more dialogue, and that is at least some of the good news. So at this time, I'm going to please ask you to
like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe.
Make sure you do that.
Oh, yeah.
So that we can continue having a great talk. This was a fun video to talk about the ethics, and we will be back with more for you next time. Take care and be well.